So, so, Mom, I know you're running for village trustee, and you were telling me earlier about this thing that you uncovered with a house that the village had purchased. Uh, and so I called you and said we should make a video about this. I know you were very against making a video, so you
Right.
just wanted to type it out, and you felt it would
Sure.
be more concise. But I felt it would be important for you to just talk about, considering you're running for trustee. People like to see a visual. So tell me about this house on Homan. When it was purchased, what was the original intent?
I believe that the original intent when the village purchased the property was to possibly use it for parking for 95th Street.
Right.
Somewhere along the line that changed. They no longer were going to do that, and they needed to sell the house.
Okay, and so there's no problem with the village selling something that they purchased, right?
Oh, absolutely not. That goes on all the time. I mean, that's, sure.
What did they purchase it for?
So they purchased the house for $150,000.
Okay.
They sold it for $166,000
Okay.
to Joseph and Rita Brennan,
And that's Trustee Mark Phelan's brother-in-law.
brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Correct.
Right. And they have a history of flipping houses in the neighborhood.
Correct. And Mark actually has flipped houses with Joseph Brennan.
Where you're saying they're both on a contract together.
Yes, they're both on a contract that purchased a house
Okay.
at,
Those papers are on an awful lot.
I know, sorry, at 9239 Lawndale. They purchased a house for $150,000
Oh, that's the
together.
same number again.
That same number. Yeah, that
You know,
number
I
comes
know
up, same number comes up a lot.
It's
It's
funny
kind
because
of
I know
weird.
in real estate investing, a lot of people use
Yeah.
they call it one unit, and they have like their investment stuff. They like to go in at a certain number. Just
Okay.
interesting.
That's interesting. Okay, so yes, they purchased the 9239 Lawndale property together, the two of them, just the two of them, Mark Phelan, Joseph Brennan. They flipped the house and sold it for $365,000.
So they bought it for $150,000 and they sold it for $365,000.
That's correct.
That's a lot of money.
It is. Good
Okay.
for them.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
awesome. Big
Sure.
win.
Right. So now we get to the property on Homan,
Yeah, behind the Dollar Tree.
behind the Dollar Tree, borders with the alley. First house behind the Dollar Tree.
That looks like a pretty big lot.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if it's a lot and a half or not. It might be. I'd have to check on that. I honestly I don't know that. But
So the village again purchased it for $150,000.
so the village purchased it for $150,000. They're going to do, I don't know. They had plans for it that didn't come to be, so they decided to sell it.
Okay.
So then I kind of looked at what it sold for and who it sold to.
Well, what's the objective when they sell it? They kind of have a responsibility.
Well, they have a fiduciary duty to sell that property for as much as they can get from it. I mean, that's taxpayer dollars.
So
that
normally
was paid for by taxpayers, and the purchase coming back when they sell it goes back to the taxpayers, and it should be as much as they can possibly get.
So to do that, I know you said you spoke to a realtor and they kind of walked you through. You would have it on the market for, a week or two and try to get the best.
Right.
number.
Well, not only would you have it on the market for at least a period of time, but I believe they're required to list it for at least 14 days.
Okay.
The village selling a piece of property should list it for 14 days. But
Whether they're required to or not,
okay.
to get the best number, you'd need at least a week.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, right. So when I looked into the sale of the property, actually there was an ordinance that the board approved at the November 18, 2024 village board meeting. All voted for it. All trustees voted in favor of the selling of this house to Joseph Brennan and Rita Brennan, except for Trustee Phelan, who abstained.
And that's his brother and sister-in-law.
Correct.
No problem with that. I mean, they bought the property.
Sure. So he abstains, even though we know he's in business with Rich Brennan.
You can't
But
say that.
okay, sure. He abstains. That's fine. The problem is the real estate contract that the ordinance approves is dated. The contract date is dated November 4, 2024, with the contract being signed by all, either on the 5th or the 6th, the all being Rita Brennan, Joseph Brennan, and Kelly Burke, being signed by all of them by 11/6/24. Kelly signed on 11/6. The other two signed on 11/5.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said earlier when you showed me this MLS listing,
Right.
you're moving those papers around an awful lot.
Sorry. Okay.
But you told me that you showed me that it was posted, listed on the MLS on the 7th. They asked for $175,000, and the same day it went under contract, and then the sale went through on either the 20th or the 21st. So it's strange to me that you're saying there was an agreement to buy it at a
On the 4th.
And it said in there 166,000.
Correct. It says 166,000 on November 4th before it ever got listed on the MLS.
So how could you say that they did their best to get a fair value?
Well, they didn't. I mean, they didn't.
Right.
They listed it knowing that they'd already accepted a contract for, $9,000 less than what they were asking. But
so if you were an average
there's no
buyer, if you wanted to buy this home as an average person, how would you possibly have found it before?
No, you never would have found it. It was not
inside deal.
Correct. You never would have found it. By the time they listed it for one singular day, they already had a contract approved.
And it probably was less than a day, considering that the post went up and within the same day was
came
listed.
down. Right. So it probably wasn't even 24 hours.
Yeah. And didn't the description say act soon?
Act soon. This one will go fast. Well, yeah, it will, because it was already gone when you listed it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then kind of the other thing, too, is just of note, I guess, is that the real estate agent, the person who sold it, also represented the people who bought it, which is not unheard of, but pretty unusual.
Yeah, so I know when I purchased my home, it was a family sale within the family, so I didn't have a realtor because I was very familiar with who I was buying from, and there were, kind of protections waived because I didn't have a realtor represent me.
Sure.
Why would someone do that unless it's an inside deal?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's of no advantage to them whatsoever. So.
And your friend said that she's done hundreds of transactions. What percent did she say that she's seen this happen?
I think she said 1%.
That's crazy.
If 1%, she said.
Are not represented.
Are not represented by their own agent.
Wow.
So, I mean, I guess the question is now, which I would love to look at, is so did the real estate agent get paid from the village? What did they get paid for literally, I don't know, hitting a keyboard and listing something for maybe 7, 8, 9 hours and then shutting it down and then appearing at a closing?
A lot of people make that critique of realtors, but I would like to say normally they're doing showings, they're advertising,
sure,
they're doing a lot for that money. But here it seems like the deal was done before it was listed. I mean, it was. It's on paper. The deal was done before
they
listed.
even listed it on the. That's correct.
It sounds illegal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's for sure not in the best interest of the residents. I mean, for starters, that's just kind of the bottom line. Yeah.
How many other times has this happened that we don't know about?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm going to start looking into, because there's a couple other houses now that I feel like could be questionable since this was allowed to go on.
Well, I have a question besides that. Why do you think the other trustees voted yes when Mark abstained? Are they good friends, or?
Well, I think that board has been around together for a very long time, with the exception of probably Jeannie Olson. The rest have been there. I am positive that the other trustees knew exactly who Brennan was and who they were selling to, and the reason Mark was abstaining and the whole thing, and they just seemed to go along with that too.
So how long have some of these people been trustees?
Yeah.
I know one of them's 30 years.
Yeah, I think Carol Kyle is 30 or more years. Mark Marzullo became a trustee the year you were born. So how old are you?
28.
28. I think Mark's maybe a 20 or 24. Jeannie Olson, I believe, was an appointee by Kelly when Kelly became mayor. I don't know that she's ever run even. I'm not sure about that. Who's left? Norm Anderson, I think he's just like maybe 10 years, 8, 9, 10.
I've heard Norm's a good
No.
guy.
Yeah, I like Norm a lot. Yeah, very, yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
I know that in the past, like Mayor Vaco was mayor for a while, and
Yeah.
then Jim Sexton was a trustee, and Vaco mid-term stepped down and handed it to Sexton, and then Sexton was able to run as an incumbent, which is much easier,
Correct,
and then was mayor for like 30 years.
correct. And then turned around and did that for Kelly.
Right.
Well, first had Kelly appointed as a trustee when Mary Keene left. And then once she was a trustee and he was going to, I guess we'd say retire or not going to run again, he steps down midterm. So the board appoints Kelly to fill out that term and then run in the next election. And then she runs as kind of like, yeah, I've been in the job forever. But also, I think I would have to truly go back and double check this for sure. But I am 99% certain that no trustee has sat on that board, and as long as I've lived in the village, 40 plus years, that was elected outright, not appointed to the spot to fill out somebody else's term and then just run with the little group as a thing. Like, I don't believe anybody has just stepped up, tried to run, and actually got on the board.
How would they?
Well, it's
There's for a very long time there hasn't been another party to challenge the incumbent.
right.
So how would they if they wanted to? They would have to go through.
Well, they would have
hoops.
to do what they've been doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
it's
would have
expensive.
to-
It's time consuming. It's
They'd have to make their own political party
yes,
to challenge
yes,
them,
which is
you
a
guys have done.
challenge. Yes,
It's expensive.
yes.
There's a lot of paperwork.
The whole thing's been a challenge.
The
Yeah,
petitions, everything.
yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And you know what's funny
It is
that
kind of crazy.
it's not that much of a challenge for someone like Kelly Burke who can take $48,000 out of her state
For
rep
her state
fund
rep and just transfer it over to run.
to
Yeah,
her mail. Well, you gotta specify that for anyone listening. She took $48,000 out of her state rep fund, which people gave to her to run as state rep, and she transferred it to her mayoral campaign. While that's not illegal, it's definitely a weird thing to do because it's not what people gave you that money to do. And once again, whether or not this house on Homan thing is illegal, it's definitely not the right thing to do. And so
No.
it's time and time again that we see she gave money to Madigan.
yeah. There've been a lot of bad faith things that have gone on. The house on Homan for sure is just not. They just didn't have the residents' best interests at heart. They had, again, a specific trustee's best interest at heart is where that goes.
Right. And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
And that's what you guys are trying to change by getting in there and maybe implementing term limits.
Yes.
Or, there's no fire for them to actually make change when they're
No.
elected for 30 plus years.
No. But you will notice, I think we have heard and seen and been just inundated with more info about the United Government Party and each of them since they have opposition. I mean, every year this election would come and go, and you would probably barely know that the election was happening, except if,
You're saying in previous years.
in previous years. Yeah, you would never even know when it was just this off-term election, meaning not a presidential, not a state. Yeah.
Well, I found
So now they've really. So if nothing else, if truly, if all else fails, they already have had to pick up the slack a little bit and start actually doing something.
I was going to say, I saw you guys spoke about how the village site didn't have financial reports, wages reported, or FOIA requests listed. And almost within a week of you guys calling that out, they updated the site.
Right.
Which means you guys are doing more for the village right now just by running.
Yeah.
That even if none of you get elected, you've had a net positive, and then this party lasts. So if someone else wants to run
So in the future, right. If younger people, especially from the village, want to get involved, this party would exist to back them and support them. Yeah.